Hi everyone, it's me Leigh with Victorian Dreams by Leigh. So I am here to do a tutorial. 2 days ago I showed some albums I've made, and I've made like 30 of them now. And so I'll show you them and then I'll show you the quick tutorial. It's actually started because of Anna Griffin had um, album making dies and folder. And this is how it started, and she gives instructions and all that. And so I used her die to cut the spine, and I made a whole bunch of them, and I gave them out for Christmas. But I'll show you what I showed 2 days ago, and everyone's asking me to make a tutorial. So this is my tutorial, but it's also using Anna Griffin dies, one die, her spine. So here it is, and it's got lace and tags and a touch spot. This is all to hold a photo. So I made them for my brother at Christmas for his memorial because he passed away 3 months ago. And this is him, James. Whew, don't cry, don't cry. Okay, so a 4x6 photo fits in there like this or like this under the lace, and it also can fit extras inside here, and you glue the bottom here. So let me just show you. Here's a belly band one here, a tuck spot, the extra cards I had, lace, lace. So here's the one I showed, and here's another one, Valentine's-y one. I showed. This is actually antique papery paper, lace. You don't have to do any of this with the tuck spots and the lace. You could just put your photo right here and everything. So there's why people ask, because I showed it. So also, let me, since I'm going to show you how to make it, I want to show you this one I made, and I wanted the outside to totally match. So this is cardstock cut 10x7 and scored in half to make a 5x7 card. We'll go over that. I know it might be confusing in the next 2 seconds, but I'll help you. And then this is all coordinating paper. I don't even know what paper line this is. Maybe Authentique. But see how you can put photos inside, and then this can be a simple photo book. The whole thing probably takes 45 minutes. So here is one that you use if you use all of her dies first. She has a embossing folder, and this is, I think, one of her different embossing folder. It is Nouveau, but see what it looks like if you emboss it on both sides one at a time. You emboss each side, and this is what it would look like. So you need 7 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper to make this album. You can use printed paper, but you need 7 sheets of 8.5 by 11, and then we're going to cut them down. Also, you can see here the embossing, but on the other side I debossed because I just ran it the whole piece. So I ran it like this, and I put the whole thing in the folder. I put my whole card in the folder. Okay, so one side was embossed or debossed, one was raised and one was not raised. So that's what you're going to get if you put it and only run it in, and you have to run all 6 of your cards. And also you need to run the 3" by 7 wrap around to hide the spine. You need to run that too. See right here where the spine is embossed or debossed, I don't know which. Okay, that is, but if you want it to be raised on both sides, you need to run it like this all the way through your machine, take it out, then run the opposite side so it's both raised on both sides. If you don't do it that way and you do it all at one time, one side's going to be in and one side's going to be poking out. I hope that makes sense. I think it does if you know what embossing folders do. Also, she came with all these dies for frames and everything, and let me show you what that looks like. Here is some of the frame. This, and I just cut the paper and then layered it. Here's one of the frames. Let's see if I have one that has a frame on it. Oh, I do. So here is, it's embossed behind it. You can barely see it. And then here's the framework. And then there's another framework. But we are not going to do the framing and all. I think y'all all know how to do that. All we're going to do is put the album together. So we are going to make whatever paper you use. It can either be cardstock or it can be printed paper. So we're going to make this right now. I hope I didn't confuse you, but this is an Anna Griffin die. First thing you need to do is cut 6 pieces of paper, whatever pattern you use, and follow the directions of your pattern when you cut it. On the 10-inch side, make sure it is going the right direction and not going sideways. So it needs to be 10 by 7, and you need 6 of these, okay? Or if you have 6 Christmas cards that are 5 by 7s, because all we're going to do is score this right down the middle at 5. Okay, so now we just made 6 5 by 7 cards. So if you have 5 by 7 cards, this is how it's made. Okay, then on the 7th piece of paper, you need to get your and use the spine die. So you stick it on the 7th piece of paper and it cuts out. Okay, so you need to save this piece of paper and you need to cut it 3 by 7. This will cover that spine and it all matches. So if it's all one color, that works out great. If it's not that one color, you need to find what you like that matches. That's on there, but I happen to have 2 sheets of paper that I could coordinate and it all matched. The insides coordinate. Okay, now you're saying it's pattern paper. See, my spine is down in here. Can you see that? And when you're cutting this out, if it's all one color, you want to use the blue. But I want this spine that I have already started working on to prep. I want it to match what I'm working on here. So I took my digitals that I cut out and I took my die and I used the magnet, the metal shim, and the A and B plate. And I cut it out from one of my digitals. Okay? So this was my digital, my extra, and I just cut it out. So what happens there, if you're using the die, what happens there is when you make the album, see how it coordinates. This little bit that you see coordinates with the rest of the album, and it's not just white or just black or whatever paper you use. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, but it will as we go along. Okay guys, so you have your 6 5x7 cards made, which was 10 by 7. You scored it at 5, did all 6. All right, then you cut your other piece of paper that is 3 by 7, and you put that off to the side. Let's get this, and that is your spine. Okay, and if you do not have this die, I am going to help you right now. I'm going to tell you what it is so that you can also have it. So I'm looking for my notes, so y'all hold on for just 1 second. You want to screenshot this. These are the measurements for it. I could not, mine did not score very well, so I'm going to score it. This piece of paper is 5 7/8 by 7. So on the 5 7/8 side, I'm going to score. So these are the people that don't have the die and can't buy the die. This is how you do it. So I'm going to score it at, I have to put on my other glasses, I'm sorry. All right, so ready? Okay, let's score at 1/2. That way I can get a good, even though I cut it out. Then we're going to score at 7/8. Then we're going to do 1 1/4. My paper is really thick, and that's why I have to go over this. 1 5/8. If your paper's not that thick, you probably wouldn't have to do this. 2 3/8. 3 1/8. Wait a minute, I skipped one. So we did 2. We did a 2 3/8. 2 3/4. All right, that's the one we skipped. 2 3/4. Then we did a 3 1/8. 3 1/2. 3 7/8. 4 1/4. 4 5/8. 5. 5 3/8. Because I've made so many, I have learned the ups and downs. Okay, while we have the scoreboard out, the piece of paper that is 3 by 7, we need to score it at 1/2. And we are done with that piece of paper. We're going to put that off to the side. We're done with our scoreboard because we scored our 6 pieces of paper, or we use cards. If you go to the dollar store and you see cards that you like, this can be for any size album. If this is 4x4 cards, then cut this down to, instead of 7 long, it would be 4. Or if you want 5x5 cards or 6x6 cards, cut it the long ways to 6 inches or 5 inches or 4 inches, but you still need the 5 7/8. So it can make any size card. Okay, so now we have all that. Now we have to fold. So we are going to fold every score line. I've already, to make it faster, I already did mine and everything. But you take your time and you fold each score line. And you just go along that and follow where you did the where you scored it all. Okay. The most important thing you can do is after you score, you have to then use your bone folder and give it a good crease on there on each piece. To save time, I'm not going to do that because I know y'all all know how to do that. So everything is folded and everything got creased. Okay, so after the second score line is your hinge. Okay, your third, okay, so you got 1, 2, your third score line is raised and is your hinge. See how it's, I pinched it together and it's my hinge. Okay, then you're going to skip a score line, and then on Anna's die it's really nice because she's got the V's. That's your hinge. Then you're going to skip a score line, and then that's your hinge. And see how my hinge is coming into play? Here's my 3 hinges so far. Can you see? There's my 3 hinges so far. And then the skip a score line and then a hinge. You will have it looking like that. Okay? And then this on the outside is for your outside pieces. Well, we haven't got there yet. Okay, let's turn it over and add our tape. If your tape is not good quality, then go ahead and tape it on both sides, but I use tape and glue. So 1, 2, in between the second and third score line, we are putting tape. Okay? Then we skip 1, 2, and then we put our tape. And I wrote it down. So between the second and score line we put tape. Between the 5th score line we put tape for your hinge. On the 8th score line we put tape. This is the ones that don't have Anna's die. If you have Anna's die, where the little V goes in, you put tape on one side or both. It's up to you. My tape is good, but I'm going to, and on the 11th score line, we put tape. Okay? We burnish this all down. That's very important to do, to get that air out of that tape and it's secure. Okay, so now we take our pokey tool and we take that up. And because I like using glitter glue, I am putting glue a little, just a hair on top of that tape. And so I am now gluing that hinge down. Okay, so that's one glued down. Then I take my next one and just takes just a little bead, and we glue that down. So this is solid cardstock. Then you can cut your piece of paper like I did on this one. So I took the solid cardstock and then I took paper and matted it on top of this album and made an album. I just haven't finished it. And then I covered it. So you can either use quick and easy already paper. Let's see, let me make sure this is down. Let's do the last one. But you're saving paper if you do it. This is, I'm not going to use the blue one tonight to finish it out. I'm going to use the other one. But to save paper, you could use pattern paper all the way through, and you're only using 6 pieces of paper. And this is digitals. So, okay, so there's my hinges. Then I have to make sure it's got a good seal. So I have to burnish it down. Okay. And I go both directions. And if glue squirts out, that's good. It means it actually cut all the way to the edge. So don't be scared about that. Okay. So this is what it should look like. And you see the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now we're ready to take our 6 cards. And if they're plain, we'll put 6 cards here. So now this is the next step. And I went ahead and prepped it because I'm going to put this together. Let me show you how I'm going to make my next step. So let you screenshot that. This is the same, but I rewrote it because those lines were confusing me. 1/2 inch on each side and 3/8 intervals. So screenshot the spine and where to put the tape. And it is 6 pieces of paper that is 10 by 7 scored in the middle at 5. And then the 7th piece of paper is to cut out the spine. So here is my spine ready, and here is my pieces of paper that is 10 by 7 scored. So there's one. This is authentic. No, this is Antique Papery Digitals. She has a group and she's giving out a lot of free stuff, so I'll link her down below too. And Anna Griffin dies I bought on HSN or annagriffin.com. So there's the second one. Here's my third. Here is the fourth. Here is the fifth. And here is the 6th. So I'm just going to put these, let's see, so they slide in to the right. So let me just, I'm going to put this one on top so that it's the front page. Okay, so this is how it's going to look. And that's the back. Okay, that works for me. Okay, so here's some tricks that you need to know. You have to put tape. You have to put tape just on the edge of your die, and then on both sides of your hinge, but put the tape as close up to the top, not close to the score line. You don't want tape hanging off it will catch hair and dust and be sticky and everything. So put tape on both sides of your hinges. So you would put tape on both sides of the hinge and put it as high up to the edge. This is 1/8 size and it's the perfect size. And then you need to put tape on both edges, on the outside edges of the hinge after it's put together. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces. And then you need to put one piece on the edge back here and one piece on the edge back here. Do not put them here yet because then it just gets all sticky and messy. So okay, so we have our hinge and we're ready to put it together. The best way I have found is I get my scoreboard and I figure out which way this goes. It really doesn't matter because you don't see much of the writing. Okay. So I know that I'm going to start from the back. I'm not going to put my back piece one on first. I'm going to do the 4 hinges first. So I'm just going to take this and I am going to take off the top of the pokey tool, the tape, not the bottom hinge, not the back part, but the top. So let me put my better glasses on. Alright, so I am just going to line this up that it squares up and that squares it up. Okay, and I am going to square up my card and it's tight, and I am going to see where the hinge fits in between that card and pull it down. Let me see what size I have here. Nope, it is my cards, because I trimmed them, are, and I'm glad that I'm showing you this, are 6 7/8. So this hinge is actually 7. So what I have to do to fix this is to trim it to, what did I say my card was once I trimmed it? Six 7/8. So I need to trim this to make sure it fits, so I don't have my hinge sticking out. It's going to be a pain in the behind because I've already taken that tape off. Okay, so I trimmed off some of that hinge because my cards, once I trimmed them and squared them up, they are not exact. So you may not have to ever do that. Okay, so let's get the card, and I'm going to have a hair sticking out that way and just a hair of the card sticking out on both ends. Okay, so the card needs to be flat up against something like the scoreboard, and then you pull the spine back just a hair and a little bit is sticking out on both ends, and you add a little bit of the glue to the tape. If you live anywhere where it rains, you probably need to do this. Okay, another trick is you need to keep this flat, take all the air out and push that direction, because if you don't take your time and push all the air out, it's going to have a opening like that when you glue it all together, and you don't want that. You want it to be flat. Okay, so then all we do is turn it to the other side, This side's much easier. And we take the tape off, run a bead. We can pull this back. This is flat and straight because I've massaged those creases so much that it is laying straight, and we air out and seal it. And that's how easy it is to put the card on. Okay, this is trickier, but let's go ahead and put the cards on. Okay, so this one is for the back one we're not doing yet. So now let's do the second one, second hinge one. And hopefully all my cards are the same size. So let's add the glue before I put my fingers in the way. Okay, so let's open the card, and it is going to be on top of the other card. We're going to put it right on up against the piece of paper or the hinge, and we're going to lay that down, and it is leveling up with the other card, and fold it, push the air out, and glue that down and press down. Once we have it all glued down and we do all of them is when we go back and burnish them. I'm not going to burnish them at every move. You have to burnish all your glue and tape down every time you do that. But right now, so let me pull the hinge out of the way. The hinge is on this side and it's flat over here, and it will get a better seal. So let's take the tape off. Let me run just a bead. Now if you double taped this, as in having tape here and here, you may not need the glue. I don't trust my tape, so we're going to push the air out and push that down. So far this is what we have. Okay, so now we're going to take this piece of tape off. We're on our third hinge, and we worked from the back towards the front is how I do it. We're taking our next card. Isn't that gorgeous? I mean, that's a beautiful card just to give away as a card and send it in the mail and do nothing to it. Sherry's papers are gorgeous. So we are up against the wall here. The card is up against the paper hinge. We are laying that hinge down, holding it down. We're pressing all the air out and gluing. Okay, we're flipping it over, and we are moving the little bit of hinge out of the way because it's only this hinge and the card underneath now. We are taking the tape off. We are doing our little bead, and we are staying away from the score line, and we are pushing all the air out and there. But can you see here where I was telling you that the paper that matched it, any of these sheets would match it, and it's kind of coordinating and it looks like it all belongs? That's what I was trying to explain about that paper matching, and don't just use white or something unless you want to. You could always measure that and put a piece to match it, but that's more work. So let's take the tape off. Let's run our glue. Let's take our other card, and it's getting a little taller, but it is in that slot of, it's up against there, so it's tight and straight. Okay, and we're going to lay that down. I don't want to get glue on my fingers and get my paper all dirty. And there we go. You can see that it lines up. See how, well, I can tell. See how everything's lined up and everything. it does wiggle on you. Okay, so now we're going to do the back part. Take that off. And we're almost done, guys. The hard part's putting it together. Okay, so see, this is wanting a bow right here. So that's why I say take it and push down, push all the air out, and the bow is not there. You're not going to have a bow. So there is our 4 pages already ready. Okay, now we have to do the back, the front and the back. So let's do the back. So you can see that this is up against that wall and it's all matching. So this is my back one, and then this is my front one. So let's do the back one, and we put that tape right on the edge because there's this score line right here, that score line. Let's fold it and make sure that we see it, because I'm going to take that score line and it hits right on my that score line hits on mine. It may hit on yours differently, but on mine it hits right at the 6.5. So I am going to take the tape off. It is straight because my cards are all straight and tight. I'm going to do a bead of glue on top of that tape so that the moisture in the air doesn't hurt it. I'm going to take my 5x7 card or paper that I cut. I'm going to that score line and I'm taking my card and I'm going just right at that score line, which is on the 6.5 measurement for me. And then I lay this down and I push, and then I stay off of that score line. So see, it's right in front of that score line. Now on the back is very easy. You take the tape off, but see, you have quite a bit of room, and you do the bead glue, and this way it's flat, and you just push the air out. There we go. Okay, there's that. Okay, now let's do the front one. Now let's do to the front. And the reason why I did the 4 cards in first is because when you first try to do this back one or front one first, it's kind of tricky and hard for me. So that's why I put those 2 on last. You might find that putting it in this one first and go right in order is easier for you. Okay, so we're going to use the bead glue, and let me just make sure I didn't go over. Okay, and now I have to turn it this way, and let's see, I don't really see the score line very good, so I'm actually going to refold that. I should have done it before I put the glue on it, and I can see that pinch. Okay, so where am I going to put this? I'm going to start it right, that score line is going to be right at my 6. So I'm going to put my card right, almost right at the 6. So I'm going to lay that flat. I'm going to try to not move anything, and I'm going to push the air, and I'm going to put it right there. So my card went, not even a hair's length before the 6, and I'm gluing that down. The back is easier because it's already in place. I do like to keep it tight up against the wall of the scoreboard, it doesn't move, and it just gives it a better seal. You don't want anything crooked at the end and then have to try to trim everything. And then I lay, and there we go. So our album, all we have to do is one more move, and we're going to get that one piece of paper that I had told you about that we scored at 1/2 inch, and it is 3 by 7. We're going to put it right here. Okay, so let me show you something. When I first made them, this was way too wide, and it took off half of the embossing, and it was just way too wide. But then look, I don't mind showing my mistakes. This is only 1 inch wide. Why? It shouldn't be. It should be 2 inches wide. So somewhere I squished the holy moly out of this, and it's still very usable. This is still very usable. This is the one I made and create to practice before I ever used good paper. Okay, so let's go through so that you have a nice spine. Okay, so what I need to do is, this is where I cut out my spine. I need to save this and put right here to go around. Okay, so let me cut my paper out, because I did forget. But yeah, boy, have I learned how to make sure that that spine is square. Having to trim this paper. I'm sorry it's taking this long. And actually, didn't I have to trim mine that it was 6 7/8? So here's my paper, and is it going to be too long for my cards? It actually is by maybe just a hair. So let me just trim that. Okay, so this card piece, yes, it fits my card base. Okay. So now I still need to only score and make sure it's going the right direction. So when I do this, I like to start on the front. So let me rotate it backwards and score at 1/2 inch. Okay. And the reason why is I needed that score line to be 1/2 inch. And we are going to place it right here. But we're going to add tape, and then I'm going to show you how to make sure that you get a 2 inch and not a 1 and squeeze it all. So let me add my tape. Put it as close to the edge. And I can add 2 right here. And then after the score line, I'm going to add tape on all of it. Wish I had a bigger piece to be quicker for y'all. I'm going to go ahead and do it on this. It's easier to do it on this than on the binding or the spine. When you're done, we have to burnish it, make sure all the air's out, and we also need to make sure that no tape is sticking past the paper so it doesn't pick up dust and hair and lint throughout the years. I am skipping spaces trying to be quick, but I will also put glue down. We are really at the end, guys. Hang in there. Okay. I don't think we need this anymore. If we do, we'll pull it up. So let's just get all that. But see how I see tape? So we need to cut the tape so it doesn't hang over. Or once you peel it off, you can push it back too. Okay, so let's go in the right direction. This is the front of the book, and it's going the right direction. It's following the direction. This is the 1/2 inch, and let's take off the 2 pieces of tape that I put on before the score line, because that's what fit. And let's add glue, especially to the top and the edges. Let's add just a little bit of glue. Okay, here's a trick. So you want it to be squared up. Okay, so you take it and you put it right on that, and you try to look underneath here, and it's right on the fold, and you come to this end and you fold it, and the crease of the score line goes right on the fold, and you really let it have a second to glue down. Okay, now this is, we only did 1 score line. We're not going to do this one because if it wobbles or anything. Okay, so now this is where I need my scoreboard. I thought I did need to use it again. We're going to take off the tape. You can do 1 or 2 at a time. I'm going to go ahead and take all my tape. Well, I'm going to take 2 off at a time. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of glue. I'm only doing 2 strips of tape at a time because I don't want to glue way over here when I only want to glue this spine. Okay, so here's the card, and we're laying it down and it's tight. I'm going to take my finger to this first, and I am just pushing it down. Okay, and I only glued down the first gap in between the first 2 pages. Okay, and there is tape underneath there, so I think I'm going to go ahead and take all my tape off because I don't want to, yeah, I'm going to have to pull all my tape off because I don't want to have to be pulling it. After you make 1 or 2, you see that it is actually pretty easy. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put glue here. I'm holding it up, and I already pressed the first. Now I'm going to open it and press the second one, and then I'm going to press the third, and I'm pressing the fourth one, and I'm pressing the 5th one. Now we have 1/2 inch, and we are pressing it down on the back. Mine's a little crooked, even with that, but that's okay. I'm going to put lace over this for this one so that works out. Okay, so see how this one is straight and this one's all bending? See how this first one looks like a book, but this back one, we didn't score it. So now what we do is we find it very gently, don't crack your paper, very gently, and find where that fold is, natural fold, and then we score it. And it is, if you measure, it's going to be a ½ inch. But I didn't want to score it and I'd be off a little and the score line be on the on this part. So there you go, guys. The book is done. And then you put your lace, your tuck spots. Oh, you do have to come in here and look at the direction at the bottom. You have to take your glue and you put a bead of glue all the way and you glue each bottom because you only need the pocket on the top. Now, I can see I have just a hair of white here and a hair of white right here. I will take ink. I'll take some Tim Holtz and I will daub antique, probably antique linen, and I will daub right here and I will get rid of that white and it will correlate or match with this, and I will do that on each one if that happens. So this was just a hair bit bigger, so I will daub that and go back and get ink on that. So make sure you glue each of your bottoms. So let's look at the finished product here. And it will move and want to move, and it'll fold in place and feel a little better on your hands after you use it a couple of times. So here is the finished product. And all this is just using junk journal paper and trimming it down. The size on my HP printer, I printed it on 7.25 times 10.5. Let's see, and I'll show you what normal size. So this is normal size, 8.5 by 11, and this is cutting it to printing it to 7.25 times 10.25. It made the perfect 5 by 7 card. And I think I did have to trim 1/4 off of the edge. So you do save a little bit of ink. Or you could have done it this way and just trimmed it too. So I just wanted to tell you that. So now I have my finished product without the lace and everything, but the actual and remember, we've got to go back and do this to everything and glue the bottom. But there's the finished product. Isn't that beautiful? So thank you guys. I hope you like this. I hope I helped you. And if you have any questions, just ask. And here is one extra that we used in here. So if I was giving this as a gift, here's a card that matches. So yeah, I hope that helped you, everyone, and thank you. All my links are down below. My blog, my Pinterest, my 2 groups that I have. One's a Texas group and one's Glue Gun Chronicles. When I did Glue Gun Chronicles for a couple of years, every day I use my glue gun. And I'll also put Sherry's Antique Papery link so that you can be in her group. And she gives out free digitals in her group. And I hope that you like this. Thanks. Bye.